They can't pass each other because they don't have no horsepower. But then there at the last, you had some guys that was really passing people on the outside. So I guess the track changed, or the guys changed the way they drove the car.
Back about 20th and 15th or 20th, there's a beating and a thrashing. I'm not sure Denny had to show everything he had. And he's such a smart driver. He's such a veteran driver.
You know, they run 400 laps. We used to run 500 laps. Running 500 laps, your strategy would have been completely different than a 400 lap race. Or it could be.
What do you think, Bud? Was at Martinsville, and before we get started on this race, I'd just like to thank Clay Campbell for his hospitality for me and you and everybody concerned, and what a hands-on promoter he is. He probably knows every hot dog that was sold and at what time, probably. Thank you, Clay.
He keeps up with the people. He has a race, but he wants to please the people so they'll come back and enjoy themselves while they're there.
He does such a good job at it. But Richard, it's the first time we've seen a car that dominant, I believe, this year, you know, and I'm talking about the 11 car.
Yeah, he was just the best all day long. Took him a little while to get, I guess, to get to the front. But, you know, when the race off started and stuff, they was like, 8 or 10 cars, and they got gone from the rest of the crowd. And they were 4 or 5 car lengths apart, so they just run. But you get back about 15th or 18th and stuff. Them guys, they raced all day. They can't pass each other because they don't have no horsepower.
Well,
and you know, it just changes the whole outlook. The deal is that if they make just a little bit of a slip and they get on the outside, they're history.
Yep.
So, but then there at the last, you had some guys that was really passing people on the outside. So I guess the track changed, or the guys changed the way they drove the car.
Or the guy on the inside got so bad anybody could have passed him, no matter what. But, yeah, we'll get back to Denny. There was some early cautions, some pit stops, and some people got behind, some people stayed out. But about halfway during the race, when he got to the lead, it was over.
Yeah, he dominated from then on.
From then on, he dominated.
I think the race kind of settled down.
It did.
And but then, you know, they'd have a caution or something. 5 or 6 of them guys would stay out. And like one time the 21 stayed out, and, you know, he'd been running, I don't know, 15th or 20th or something, and he just ran off and left everybody.
But he was a good car, Richard.
And then he was really a good car, but they kept having electric problems and had to stop a couple times, lost a lap or two because of that.
You know,
but he was really a good car too, Dale. He just didn't get to stay in there and prove it.
I'm pretty sure if they'd have continued without trouble, he would have been somewhere in the top.
He'd have been right up there. He'd have been right up there with him.
I don't think he could have beat Denny, because I'm not sure Denny had to show everything he had. And he's such a smart driver. He's such a veteran driver.
You know, Denny was running, and the 9 car was behind him, and they'd catch traffic, and the 9 car would catch up a little bit. But Denny was so dominant, he was just trying to be real careful. You know, he didn't take any. When he come to lap them cars and stuff, he give them plenty of room. He didn't try to force anything.
Yeah, he was, you know, it's, but if we get back to it and use the word if we'd took the top 6 or 7 out.
Oh, it'd have been a heck of a race.
It would have been a heck of a race, because they'd be back about 20th and 15th or 20th. There's a beating and a thrashing.
Sometimes they was running 3 abreast. You know what I mean?
And they're so tight they couldn't spin out, because there's like 3 times 4, 12. There's 12 tires trying to keep 3 cars, you know, from spinning. But all in all, it was race.
It really was just raced, and everybody done their pit stops and strategies and all that. And then the race really came down tonight till they made the last pit stop, because the 20 and the 23 and the 9, you know, there was 3 or 4 of them there. They raced the far out of each other there at the end of the race.
But it was unusual, Richard, that they wouldn't run that long at the end of the race without a caution.
Yeah, with the people.
And racing for position.
With the people racing because they knew then that they had to be in front of that guy. Sometimes under when they know there's a pit stop stuff coming, they don't push the issue. Here they was pushing the issue.
Yeah, and I'm sure the first was dominated, but I'm sure Christopher Bell, the 23 car and the 9 car, what little tweak could we have done to beat the 11 car? It might have had to be a big tweak, but wasn't nobody
really,
else even close. We're repeating ourselves.
One of the cars that kind of I thought would do a little bit better was the 5 car. But he about 5th or 6th was about as good as he could run all day. And I just felt like that being he is who he is, and it's a Hendricks car, that he would have been able to got up in there.
You're talking about the 5 car. He wasn't on his top game yesterday.
No,
but 2 different times I think we've seen him pull over and let the 9 car go, which is a team car.
Right.
Because he knew he was holding up,
right.
and he knew the 9 car was better.
Right.
But, you got to give him credit. He runs hard every lap, And, of course, all of them did, and I don't know, looking down the list here, it's... I
look at the deal and stuff. They run 400 laps. We used to run 500 laps. You know what I mean? But running 500 laps, your strategy would have been completely different than a 400-lap race, because it gets over with pretty quick, because they get around the racetrack in, 20, 21 seconds. So it don't take long to run those laps. But if you look at the whole deal, the way the race come out is 400 laps, and there was almost 100 laps under caution. So they really didn't race, but just a little over 300 laps.
There's 22 cars in the lead lap, and they wouldn't have been without the stages. And if it had been 5, and you're talking about 500 lap race,
but even the 400 lap, the cautions kept a bunch of people in the same lap.
Yeah.
Otherwise, they probably wouldn't have been but maybe 12 or 14 cars in the same lap.
But they did have the other deal, Richard, when they made some green flag stops. Somebody left the wheel loose.
Yeah.
And me and you don't understand that. I think a lot of people don't understand it, but why they can't catch it or don't know it. And
I think a couple of them come back in to get them tightened up also. You know what I mean?
Okay, yeah.
And I think one of them finally lost a wheel.
Yeah, they got one lug nut. We used to have 5. And
well, if you got 3 or 4 of them on there, you're okay, right?
You know better than that. I always got 5 on for you.
Well, yeah, but a couple of them might be a little bit loose. Okay.
You ain't never checked them after I put them on, bud. Don't go there with that.
Yeah, we were running somewhere. I ran a whole lap with no lugs on them.
Whose fault was that?
I guess it was whoever was.
I guess it was the driver, because we took. Back in those days, you had somebody that could take, on a 4-tire change, you could take the lug nuts off, and then we'd come around and didn't have to take them off and picked up the pit stop a little bit. So when they dropped the jack on the right and I come around, you took off at Michigan.
That was
2 mile with no lug nuts on. Don't butt in on me.
But that was my
was
job.
Your fault.
When that car hit the ground, I was supposed to be going. Okay.
But no, you was wrong, and I'm gonna go to my grave with that. You was wrong.
All right.
Okay, even though you ain't never made a mistake. Okay, bud. But, coming up this week, Richard, it's another big deal at Darlington, and there'll be
it'll be a completely different race. I mean, you run Martinsville and watch the race there. You go to Darlington, it's going to be a whole different crowd running up front, a whole different way people approach the racetrack. There's probably 5 or 6 guys that really get around the track good, and I think Eric's pretty good there.
Eric's real good there, but they got to get the car better. We got to
get the car to handle a little bit better for them.
And I think maybe air comes into play a lot more than it did at Martinsville. I think you can leave air out at Martinsville, but Darlington there'll be some air development, but I still like the springs and shocks and sway bar, because that's mainly what we had to operate with. And
now their only adjustment once the race starts is air pressure.
Yeah, and a little bit of wedge maybe, but getting back to Martinsville, Richard, they had plenty of chances for the cars that wasn't that good to improve themselves, and they couldn't.
But nobody got any better.
The same cars stayed up front all day, So
I guess maybe if they was driving and felt the car, it might have been a little bit better. But I didn't see anybody make their car good enough to run faster. You know what I mean?
Yeah, I didn't. Yeah, well, the 12 car started back there with us, Richard, and he got up to where'd he finish? Somewhere's up in there, but he was a worst qualifier to finish pretty good.
Right, right. Yeah, he's the only one to come from the back that got halfway up to the front.
But we got to go to the South Carolina this week, and hope it's a great show, and looking forward to it.
We'll be there trying to get the 42 and the 43 to run a little bit better.
I know that.
It's unreal. I mean, you had the fourth, fifth, sixth place car winds up winning the race on the last lap. Something's going on. It looked like a bowling alley. You had all these guys up there in the front, and somebody bowled the ball through and knocked them all out of the way. That was one of the wildest finishes I've ever seen.
Yeah, I did. Some good cars got eliminated, and a good car won the race. Don't get me wrong, but he was running along there. They opened the door and he went through it.
Yeah. Okay. When their cool suits quit working, I don't know if they get any hotter than they would have been if they hadn't had the cool suit to begin with. But I think that's a little bit picky when you blame the cool suit because you don't do the job. That's not right.
Yeah, we've tried a lot of stuff, and nothing of it works like it does today. But some of our stuff was years ago with a hot water bottle or a plastic bag full of ice, and we'd always try to put it over Richard's heart because that's where all the blood passes. And I can't say how much it helped, but he did win a few races.
I guess him winning the race at Martinsville, okay, that was probably the highlight of our experience with him. There was nobody out there that wanted to run and win races any more than John. John was he was so dedicated to doing his job. And, he was good for us those years that he drove our car. We probably should have won more races, but sometimes the car wasn't there.
Yeah, he carried on the Andretti family tradition, and I'm repeating what Richard said, didn't nobody want to do good any better than John, and what a likable person he was in the whole family.
Okay.
Yeah, if you can see the picture behind us, that's Richard with the scoreboard back then, and I guess it's, 70, Richard?
Yeah, somewhere in there.
Yep, big Pepsi sign in the 43 leading again with,
Dick Hutchison. Dick Hutchison ran in 1967. He ran 12 second places behind me. He would have won 12 races if we hadn't have been there. That's how good he was. Okay.
Yeah, that's good. But if you can see, there's
then Pearson, I guess, was third there. Yeah.
I guess there was 21 laps to go, and Richard's still holding his head up, so we done pretty good.